We can now bring in Daryl Kimball, Executive Director of the Arms Control Association, who joins us from Washington. Thank you so much for joining us here on France 24. Now, back in March, we had the U.S. Director of National Intelligence who said that Washington continues to assess that Iran is not building a nuclear weapon. Has anything changed between then and now?
No, we have seen Iran over the past 3 or 4 years slowly increasing the amount of enriched uranium it stockpiles, putting more advanced centrifuges in line. It is generally believed to be able to amass enough highly enriched bomb-grade material for 3 or 4 bombs within 2 or 3 weeks. That is, if their facilities are operating. But that has been the situation for quite some time. U.S. intelligence community has said repeatedly that there is no sign that Iran has yet ordered the development of nuclear weapons. So it is, I think, incredible that Prime Minister Netanyahu calls his order to strike Iran at the facilities, the leadership, civilian targets, a preemptive action. This is an illegal strike under international law. Negotiations were underway and could still begin if the fighting does cease.
Is this an illegal strike, in your opinion, because Iran has signed on to the NPT, the Nuclear Proliferation Treaty, which now they're mulling leaving?
Well, the UN Charter makes it clear that it is illegal for any state to attack another sovereign nation. So technically, Israel's strike that began on June 13th is an illegal attack. In the view of our organization, the action by Prime Minister Netanyahu was primarily designed to disrupt the negotiations that were actively underway between the United States and Iran on a deal to block Iran's pathways to the bomb. So in response, we're seeing voices inside Iran calling for Iran to reduce its future cooperation with the International Atomic Energy Agency, move the material that it has, the enriched uranium that could be enriched further to bomb grade to secret locations. And we have voices in Iran calling for the country to withdraw from the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty. Iran is a party to the treaty, which prohibits states who don't have nuclear weapons from pursuing them. Israel, which possesses an arsenal of over 100 nuclear weapons, is not a party to the NPT. So those are the facts. The question now is, what can be done to de-escalate the situation and return to diplomacy, which is clearly the best approach to blocking Iran from pursuing nuclear weapons. There's no way that Israel or even the United States can bomb away the nuclear knowledge that Iran's scientists have accumulated over the years. This program is more than 25 years old, and some of the facilities, particularly the Fordow underground enrichment plant, are basically impervious to Israeli attacks, but could be damaged if Donald Trump decides, against his previous statements, to get the United States involved and to use heavy U.S. ordnance to hit that Fordow underground enrichment facility.
But Israel would argue that they're knocking off the scientists, Iranian scientists, one after another. But as you mentioned, the program is 25 years old, because this is one of the risks, isn't it, that without a deal in place, a deal with the United States or whichever party, before we had the JCPOA, and at least inspections were being conducted in Iran, then of course, with pressure from Netanyahu, Donald Trump walked away from the JCPOA, and now the whole diplomacy has been scuttled for now. We see if Donald Trump manages to get that back on track, because this is the risk. Without inspections, without Iran staying in the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty, that its program could go rogue, isn't it?
Exactly. I mean, that is the risk. I mean, so perversely, the Israeli attack could very well increase the risk in the long run, or even in the medium term, of Iran pursuing nuclear weapons. Now, just in the recent hours since Donald Trump left the G7 summit in Canada, he said on social media that he doesn't want a ceasefire, but he wants Iran to return to the negotiating table and to agree to completely give up its nuclear program. That I think is an unrealistic demand, in the sense that Iran has insisted that it will need to maintain some level of uranium enrichment for peaceful purposes, which technically speaking is extremely limited. To dismantle the program would be a major capitulation on the part of the Iranian regime. I think it's very unlikely they will do that, even under bombardment. And on the other hand, the Iranians have said if the Israeli attacks end, they're ready to go back to the negotiating table and negotiate seriously with the United States on the nuclear program. So the choice is before Donald Trump. It's before the European leadership. I think it's very important that France, the other countries that have weighed in on this issue through the years, lean strongly on Israel and the United States to bring about a ceasefire and return to the talks on ending Iran's nuclear program.
Stay with us, Daryl, because you touched on this, that one of Iran's best protected nuclear sites is located in Fordo in the north of the country. Israel hasn't struck the facility because it's located deep underground and requires bunker buster bombs, which would be deployed with American help. Fordo contains Iran's most advanced centrifuges and is considered crucial for enriching uranium.
It's the biggest non-nuclear bomb in the US military's arsenal and the only thing that can destroy Iran's underground enrichment plant at Fordo. The GBU-57AB massive ordnance penetrator is known as the bunker buster and carries a blast of 11 tons of TNT. Israel does not possess the planes to carry the GBU. Only American B-2 planes can do that, meaning Washington's involvement would be necessary. The US dropped a similar bomb, the GBU-43B Moab, in 2017 on a cave complex in Afghanistan being used by the Islamic State group, the only time it has ever been deployed. That blast killed 94 militants and also reportedly 2 civilians in the vicinity. The bomb detonates before reaching the ground, resulting in a massive blast radius, meaning it carries an extra risk of civilian casualties. Without access to the GBU-57, Israel's options include a series of smaller bombings or a commando raid, similar to the one carried out by special forces last September that destroyed an underground missile factory in Syria. Israel did bomb the site last Friday, but there was reportedly little damage. With its centrifuges buried deep under a mountain, Fordo is key to Iran's alleged efforts to create an atomic bomb. In 2023, the International Atomic Energy Agency reported it had discovered uranium enriched to 83.7% purity in Fordo, close to the 90% enrichment level necessary for nuclear weapons.
Daryl Kimball, I'd like to bring you in once again. Talk us through the significance of Fordo, which is a site that for now seems to have not been touched.
Well, that is true. This, as your report said, the massive ordnance bomb is really the only weapon that can seriously damage or destroy Fordo. It may not be operating right now because the electrical systems run above ground. But if this site is not knocked out, it is really impossible to have said that Israel's attacks have stopped Iran's nuclear program. So in other words, the Israeli strikes to date have clearly set back Iran's nuclear program by weeks, if not months, but it can and will reconstitute what has been lost or damaged. And I think that the challenge and the problem is that it may make the Iranians more determined to pursue the program. And if there is not a negotiated agreement, with the United States for sanctions relief in exchange for limits on Iran's enrichment program, additional and return of inspectors, and additional IAEA verification. Iran may, in the next year or two, decide to pursue nuclear weapons. Because if you think about it, Israel's attack is making Iran feel very vulnerable. Their conventional deterrence has failed. So I think we're going to see many more calls in Iran for the pursuit of nuclear weapons. So this is why diplomacy is critical at this very moment.
And if that were to happen, if those calls from within the country were to put pressure on the country's scientists to take what it claims is a civilian nuclear program and make it weapons grade, how long is that switch needed? Does it take?
Well, it's hard to say because it's going to take a while to assess how much these strikes have damaged Iran's program. But up to this point, the U.S. intelligence community has assessed that it would take many months, if not longer, for Iran to weaponize its nuclear program. In other words, to take the bomb-grade nuclear material, uranium enriched to 90% uranium-235, to fashion a device, and then to be able to deliver it on a ballistic missile. So it would take quite some time to be able to do all of that. And then even then, Iran would have, at the very best, from its military perspective, a very small nuclear arsenal. So there is time to stop this program before that point, and the best way to do this is through a negotiated approach.
Indeed. Daryl Kimball, thank you so much for joining us on the program today.